Hi guys, welcome back to another exclusive episode here on the TCG Party Podcast. With me tonight, of course, is the voice of reasons and everything, Mr. Giovanni.
Hello, Kevin.
And of course, coming back again for another Simon episode, this time instead of a duel, it's just with himself, Mr. Cameron G.
Hey, Kev, Dio, what y'all got going on, man? It's a pleasure, as always.
Alright, so we have a lot to discuss. Before we do, guys, we have to say thank you so much. Thank you so much to that. We're getting a lot of credibility and being thankful with Geo here, who's been posting our episodes all around the internet, on social medias and everything, and it's been very helpful. Thanks to all his hard work and support, ever since we started doing in the Dragon Ball Super podcast, we basically been trying to let Bandai notify that we've always taken consideration of how their hard work has been very helpful for the player bases and everything. And recently, we've have now received a post asking that Bandai would check our videos, and Geo has already sent them the link. So now Bandai is officially checking out our episodes of the podcast. So we do have to give a huge shout out for them, and we thank you so much for checking us down. Hoping you and glad you guys understand that we do put a lot of effort to not only in the Dragon Ball Super community or Digimon community, but to every card game and every card player out there who enjoys watching our views, our antics, and anything that we go beyond. And we do apologize for some profanities, but we're not like we're not Christian type of podcast. We just have a lot of fun. Sometimes we do get a little out, but that's the idea because a lot of people just tend to enjoy themselves and let loose. That's what we do in these podcasts. That's what every podcast does. But we've always appreciate the effort of you guys checking us out. So again, thank you Bandai for seeing us. And of course, thanks to you, Geo, for all your hard work and dedication for sending us the messages and to sending it everywhere on social media.
And Bandai, we love your games. I don't
Mm.
have to add anything else other than that.
Yeah, and another one to shout out, guys, because I just saw in the subscription today's during the recording. Shout out to No Counters, No Combos for subscribing to the Fortress Striker channel. Again, guys, that's so great. I remember having one guy who I believe was from Team Legends who subscribed to me when I was doing Yu-Gi-Oh profiles and everything, and he checked me out. He subscribed. He commented one of my videos back then, and it's appreciated to see fellow card players out there give support to the channel. Check us out. Listen to everything we talk about. So again, shout out to No Counters, No Combos. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys keep on watching to our episodes.
Thank you, Adrian. Appreciate you, buddy.
Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And before we do, is one of you guys outside?
I mean, yeah,
Hey,
sitting
hey,
on my sitting on my
instead of
porch right now.
music, we got jungle calls now. Hey,
We just
I got
got,
some type of jingle. Are you somebody trying to video chat me right now? Is that what's going on?
I don't know, because I like the fact that we're hearing crickets and bird chirps in the middle of the episode, and that's gonna like give a lot, that's gonna
You
annoy
know
a
what I'm
lot of
saying?
people.
Hey, look, I'm the nature boy. You know what I'm saying? You know I play green, boy. Yeah, with the bugs and the trees, the birds and the bees.
And then the
And let me
cats
go
in the
ahead and
cradle and the silver spoon.
you know, country boy at heart. End of the day.
All right. Sorry, guys, we can't do anything about this lousy noise in the background. So, if anything, blame Cameron. All right. So, our first discussion, guys, we've already got the character Kazuya from Tekken already been shown his design, his move sets by Sakurai himself. We've also been announced that the next character for the DLC of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate will be the last one. There will be no more DLC after this. So a lot of people are very speculating to see who it's going to be. Geo says it's going to be Sora, but that's going to be impossible due to the fact that Disney owns the rights to Sora, and that's not going to allow.
Sora, Sora, Sora.
We are desperate for Crash Bandicoot. I'm Team Crash Bandicoot for Noel's sake, and he's been dying to have Crash in this game. But I'm formidably upset because out of all the main characters you have to do, Sakurai, you have to put Dante from Devil May Cry as a main character. What in God's name is wrong with you?
I mean, he's gotta get it in somehow. People been asking.
I
Maybe
mean,
it's
I wouldn't mind Crash. It's like that's also a very iconic character. It'd be a great way to go out with that for
I mean,
Ultimate.
I would laugh out that they actually make him as a Mii character. I mean, they did that with Sans, but Sans got more hyped as the biggest Mii character than anyone else. He got, if you watch like all the videos on all the reactions to Sans, did you understand the fact that his reaction was the best out of every character reveal? And he's a fucking Mii character. It's the fact that it's
I think Seth
what.
Roth had a really big reaction video as well.
Sephiroth, yes, but we're talking about like Sans because Sans was a meme, and then Steve was a meme, and
Yeah,
he came out as a regular character in Smash, and nobody expected that. And Steve became a good character to come out. But Sans, if you go back, was his reveal shocked the world. You can look up all the videos, guys, and I think there's one in New York. They have like this game store, and they do like these video reviews, and someone's recording and see it, check it out. And then when it came to all the Sans, everyone marked out the fact that he came to Smash and nobody anticipated. And you get Megalovania, and from a me character, like who wouldn't get excited for that? That's actually pretty cool.
A main character that looks
yeah,
like the character too.
yeah.
Doesn't
That's a big part of it too. Is that he wasn't just like a costume, like that. I think that helped a lot of people who were fans of that character. Really, it made him happy. I personally, like thinking about it, I haven't thought too deep about it, but I think it's gonna be a Nintendo character last. And there's a couple reasons why. I think they made a Namco character second to last because Namco actually develops the game. The Smash 4 and Smash Ultimate are Namco developed. That's why it was Pac-Man and that came into the game. And then they started doing like the other crossovers like Capcom and stuff. But I think that they're sending off the Namco co-development representing, their biggest fighting game character. I mean, Kazuya might be, other than Pac-Man. Pac-Man's kind of like, Mega Man is to Capcom. Just like Ryu's kind of like, to Capcom, that same representation. So it'll probably be, I don't know what Nintendo character it could be, though, to be honest, 100%. Like, that would make a big enough. Yeah, I'm sure I'll be surprised. I don't want to think about it too deep because hopefully I'll be surprised and I'll be interested. But that's what I think it'll be. I think they wanted to do the 1-2 punch with the Namco character and then wrapping it up with the Nintendo character that we don't have yet.
I agree with you. I kind of wish that we got to see like more of like a little bit more Pokemon because I wouldn't mind one more Pokemon entering the fray. But one thing I gotta say about DLC Ultimate in the two packs compared to DLC in Smash 4, Smash 4 had more character-based features that got hyped and were very powerful enough
Yeah,
to use, such as Cloud, Bayonetta,
Bayonetta. Yep.
Ryu.
Greninja. These characters were very well designed. They were very well played, and a lot of people were very happy about it. When the Ultimate came, the first one that the real Joker was okay for a lot of fans who loved the Persona games, and Joker was busted, but mostly by the player named Leo who was perfect enough to use a Joker. He would later on have to get nerfed for just a little bit, but was still playable and won a major tournament using the character. Then you end up having Hero, who's also busted, and then for the first time you get Banjo Kazooie returning to Nintendo after Rare was sold to Microsoft. So a Microsoft character enters Smash, which is have never done before, all with the returning of Banjo and Kazooie, which was a great hype. You go on forth, and you got Terry, which is okay, but he wasn't like as good as a fighter because Sakurai focused too much on him as an arcade playable character with arcade movesets, which was a little different to use as a brawler in the Smash Ultimate when we use like a sort of different style of controls. And you ended up the first one DLC with the Fire Emblem where people
With
didn't want
Blythe.
to, which nobody wanted to see, and I got annoyed about that because I don't like sword fighters because they're like everywhere, especially Fire Emblem because I can't stand Fire Emblem. And
They
then
just sell that DLC pack though. You know what I mean? They trying to keep Fire Emblem in people's eyes. That way, that expansion pass for Fire Emblem, which came out around that time,
Oh yeah,
they
both
trying to.
both Dragon Quest 11 and Fire Emblem, where new games came out that year, became DLC characters, which a lot of people wish it was someone else. But we kept getting more sword fighters in the game. Like we had about, let's see, we got Hero, we got Byleth, we got Sephiroth, and we got the duel of Pyra and Mithra. Like that's like four sword fighters we got, and we barely have any. We only have like two brawlers and no, it's like 2, 3. Well, depending on like some sort of sword fighters you're looking for, and then I'm not gonna count Steve, of course, because Steve has has a weapon as a sword and axe, but I don't know if you want to count him as a sword fighter, because I really don't. He's just his own character who has like different traits and 0 gunners. There's not even one gunner coming in and smash. So maybe we might get a gunner as the last resort, but nobody's gonna know who the gunner is unless they pull an upset, because Sakurai has to make this the big one, because it's the last character of Ultimate, and then after that we're just stuck with all these characters forever. There's nothing else we can do.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it could be that's Metroid related, but the fact that Metroid, they're having a big comeback, and like it's definitely the thing that people are the most hyped for in the Nintendo like space. But I don't know because I played. That's the thing about the Metroid games is that you're pretty much all alone, and it's just Samus and whatever. And I mean, yeah, Ridley was the big one, but unless they do something weird like the big brain, the big one of the Metroids or something. But
How do you even play that?
I don't know. Shoot, like there's a lot. How did they shrink Ridley and make Ridley playable? Ridley was like the size of the whole stage.
Yeah, but isn't the big brain just in a jar?
No, it turns into like this big like monster goobly thing. I mean, they turned Piranha Plant into a character, man. You know what I mean? Like
That's
they
true.
could do whatever.
It took the Waluigi spot.
Yeah. You think that's what it was?
I mean, a lot.
I don't know.
I don't know, man. They
The
did
Piranha
Piranha.
Plant's probably more iconic, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I know a lot of people. I know
Yeah.
Gio told me that Waluigi is never gonna happen. Well, like for a couple of reasons, where he's just more of a party character, and his designs are gonna be like not that easy to make. And when they were gonna make him, Sakurai was like seeing a lot of memes about him. He's like, I'm not making that. Despite the fact he ended up making Sans and Steve, who are two mean characters, to be part of Smash, which is hilarious. But
Yeah, I still
It
gotta
would
get
be
Steve.
nice if he made Shadow the Hedgehog instead of a trophy assist trophy could be playable.
I mean, that'd be great. I mean, I wouldn't care if he had one more DLC pack. I would have been happy. That way we get Crash. May get Sora. We can get Shadow. And I also say Waluigi because if you think about it, for example, Captain Falcon wasn't really a character in his own video game. It was just a spaceship racing game. They just designed him from F-Zero because he was the pilot.
I mean,
But
there was an anime,
oh, there was an anime. Okay,
Yeah,
oh, okay. Well, I
yeah,
didn't know. Sorry.
but I think his design doesn't come from that. I'm just saying, like, if you wanted to dig more about, him as a person, well, there's that out there. That's all.
Like, I mean, like you told me, like his character was just created with Sakura. They just made up his moves. So I'm thinking, like, why don't they just do that with Waluigi? It doesn't have to be a party move. It could be something creative. Maybe you can make it out of a meme or something. I don't know. Maybe people want to design and see Waluigi so that way you have all the Mario Brothers and the Warrior Brothers in the game.
Well, there is a new WarioWare game coming out, so I mean, there's a possibility.
I mean, how messed up would that be if they add a WarioWare character that wasn't Waluigi? That would be hilarious.
is Waluigi in Wario? I don't remember him in the at least on the GBA ones. I did play
No, I never
one or
really,
two of the
I never
GBA
see
ones.
him in the game. I only see him in the party games, but I never see him in that one.
Like, if Crash didn't get in, like Spyro would be a cool rep for if you're going that route. Dixie Kong for like a Nintendo character, but I don't. It's like the last character, so I wouldn't like. That's not gonna be like. Oh, people are gonna be like, oh my god, to
How,
that. So.
how about
It could
Conqueror?
be Toad. It could be Toad.
You could do if you did Toad, you could have the treasure tracker
Daphne.
Toad and the
Yeah.
regular Toad.
What about?
Captain
Oh,
Toad for
you can
sure.
also make him as a Toadette as well, like they did with Steve with him and Alex.
Yeah, you could do that.
But what about?
Crystal from Star Fox is another one that's pretty heavily requested.
What if the okay, two characters because I they're from Rareware as well. Conquer because he also did one with Banjo, so you could add Conquer from Conquer's Bad for a Day.
Yeah, that's a Microsoft character now though. Like I don't think Nintendo goes out on
Now,
that.
there was this other game I forgot. It was created by like
There is. This is also probably Microsoft now, but if you went with Ryu Hayabusa from Ninja Gaiden,
Oh,
uh
that's a Technic Koei.
oh yeah, I thought there was. I remember there was like rumors that they wanted to add Ninja Gaiden to the game.
It wouldn't
that
be. I mean, it would be fire, but it is Technic Koei. But that's also just me basing my thoughts off it being Nintendo. But yeah, if they were to go out their way, it could be that or Shinobi because they're close with Sega, so they could
hmm
put the Shinobi in there.
Yeah, I'm trying to look for like this one other game. Sorry guys, I have to look it up. It was also that it was like an N64. It was like a GoldenEye game, but it was a different one. It's the one that's like they
Talking
made
about Perfect Dark.
Dark
Perfect
Zero.
Dark. Yes, that's
You
the
talking about
one.
Joanna?
Yes, they can add her to the game if they wanted to. But I think she's also rarer, right?
I mean,
Yeah, she
there's
yeah
two
she
big
went to
rumors about Doom Guy. Not to cut you off, man.
Well, either
do.
Doom Guy or Master Chief can make it in.
I mean, I do love Doom Guy and what's it called there. Halo is coming out this year.
I mean,
Big Halo
I'd be
game.
happy with
Really
Master
cool.
Chief. I'm not gonna argue with. I mean, if you get Doom Guy, you have to remember Bethesda's now with Xbox, so technically that's with Microsoft. So then you're still gonna get a Microsoft character adding it to the
I
Nintendo
mean,
game.
if we got Master Chief, they could do a dual announcement since Xbox and Nintendo were gonna like share games on each other's consoles. It would be like a mega announcement that if we got Master Chief, then like Halo is on the Switch now. Like
That he'd be
you could,
great. He can have like he could be a gunner and he could be a sword fighter because he has also the alien sword as maybe like one of his arsenal weapons, or as one, or if not, just be a gunner. But you can actually add the sword as part of the items in the game.
you
So
could.
a final smash would be hard to do for the Master Chief though. It'd be easier for Doom Guy. You could do
It
like some
it has to be like
Doom.
yeah, it could be like from like when he's like doing like those final scenes from like Halo 1 or 2 or 3, and then it's like him like with the ships falling down and crashing down to the area.
Yeah, probably something wild like that.
Because that's what he, like something how he like did the against the Halos or whatever, like that way he like it like one of those emotional things, but like not from newer games because that's not gonna get people's eyes happy from all current Halo fans. You want to do it like old school so that the fans be like hyped, you know?
Mm, could be, could be. That just made me think though. What if they had like a Halo? What if they had like a Halo or Doom like card
Halo and Doom card game.
And
game? Yeah,
World of Warcraft had a TCG that was on fire until it died 8 months in for over
yeah.
expanding. So they could. You never know.
You know what I'm saying? Like you could play with like the different demons from Doom and stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, there's so many different routes that they can go with that.
Okay.
I mean, it's like, what if we got like some, but like they wouldn't throw like Daisy at us or something like that.
Daisy's in the game.
Daisy's in the game. We have all three of the princesses.
Okay.
Well, we
My
don't have what's her name? The old girlfriend, the old girlfriend.
Oh, I forgot her name. It's not Marie. It's
The one that looks like Jessica Rabbit.
no, yeah, I know. She's the one who was
from
like in the
Odyssey.
no, the one from the original Donkey Kong game. The one that
No,
Oh
Day.
yeah.
So Daisy is the one from the original, but then there's the one from
no, like Donkey Kong with the one that where Mario got started, the one he had to save that princess. Because that's like technically what that lady in the new Odyssey game is.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I forgot what her name was. Pauline.
Pauline, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, this is off the wall, but this was also a very classic NES game. What if they threw in Battletoads?
Battletoads. I'm trying to remember
Mm,
who. I'm pretty sure Battletoads is a rare. Yeah, it's a rare
Not
property.
really. I wouldn't be that hyped for Battletoads.
They were on
They had they
Nintendo.
had
That was
they had
late.
Rash. They had Rash and Killer Instinct.
Mm.
I'd be
So I
You
cool.
didn't play
mean,
Killer Instinct, the new one?
Killer.
I'm not. I haven't played it, so that's why.
Oh, it's fire, dude. It's fire. So
Oh, you know what's a classic character they can add, just for fun. This character Glover
Oh yeah.
from the Glover games that came like in the late '90s of the
bro,
N64. They had like two
you
games.
talking about old games, like bro, give me Buck Bumble.
Like nobody
Mm.
like newer games like people of today want to see that in Smash, but like in older games that's like, oh, this character was iconic from back in the day and blah blah blah. Like people from today who are in their 20s or 30s that know that played this game before with that character, they'll be more hyped than people's standards of today. They'd be like, who the fuck is this? Why did we gotta waste about that? I don't know who this is.
I mean, we're never getting Goku, but that would break the internet.
Goku
If
would make
that-
no sense. It's all about Shaggy.
I mean, also true.
Sure, we
Okay.
go.
All
Oh,
right.
oh, I was gonna say, if they made like a new Pokemon trainer for like the new gen Pokemon, like,
Ash. Ash finally comes in Smash.
hey,
Ash into Smash. And then he has to use like his three best Pokemon since Pikachu's already in the game. So, but you can add Pikachu as part of like his shoulder as his character design as on his shoulder. Yeah, like you have to use like three of his styles of the trainers. So you can have either all right his three best Pokemons. Obviously, we're gonna put Infernape as one because Infernape was really good and powerful during the Sinnoh story when he fought Paul in the quarterfinals of the tournament and him fighting Electivire was a great final battle. The next one, it has to be. It's like who else is there is iconic for Ash? And I don't want like Ash from like the newer episodes. I'm like Ash.
Heracross,
Which one?
Heracross.
I mean, we could add Heracross. I wouldn't mind. He's a really good Pokemon, but I'm thinking like someone like that's like that was decent in his arsenal that was like in this top best, other than Charizard and Pikachu and Greninja.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying. He has what is it, a Tepig or an Emboar?
Nah,
Uh,
I don't like that Pokemon. I don't like Gen 5 Pokemon.
um, he also has. Doesn't he have a Turtwig that evolved into
Yeah,
like?
yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna add Torterra because what happened is that he got like after it evolved, it wasn't really strong. It actually got lost a lot of matches, and it didn't even win a single battle. So I'm actually prefer him as a Turtwig more than any of his other evolutions.
Bro, I don't know how you even remember what be going on in the Pokemon episodes. I'm gonna be all the way real.
It's because I
Like,
rewatched. I actually watched the entire series because I never really finished it when the series came out when I was a kid. I had to like watch the whole series like a few months back, and it was really good. Of course, I'm a Gen 3 guy.
you
Gen
was
4
having
was
fun
not
with
bad.
it.
Yeah. Uh,
No,
Yo, Gen 3 is your jam?
Gen 3 is always gonna be my jam.
I feel that. I mean, it's respectable. Gen 3 had a nice vibe. I respected it. It had a good
right.
like
I,
Super Nintendo vibe.
Oh, we could add a Sceptile. Sceptile was actually pretty good.
yeah. Hopefully, Nintendo surprises us with the last character.
And then whatever that he got, we'll just go with it or something. Maybe add a Dragon type or something. I don't know. But I don't want that stupid goopy one. I want maybe the Noivern.
You talking about Goomy?
Goomy.
Oh, you better not disrespect Goomy.
I just did. What are you gonna
Lord Goomy. Come on now. Come on now. Gudra, the very friendly dragon? Oh,
do? No.
ugh.
And I'm not gonna
You know,
add his new stories, despite the fact he has a Dragonite and a Gengar.
people punch you and you get slow in the game. They just hit Goomy and they get
Even
slow.
though he has a Dragonite, you wouldn't add it because Iris's Dragonite is the more popular Dragonite of the two.
I don't know, man. After the fact, when you watch the first movie and a Dragonite got stopped by Jesse with a pot with a pan, I can't see Dragonite as an OP character.
I mean,
I mean,
well,
Jesse's OP.
I mean, if you've seen Iris's Dragonite, hers is pretty badass. And that fight with Ash's Charizard, but that's not here.
I'm actually disappointed when they did the Team Rocket and Me characters. They didn't make them Jesse and James. They could have just done that, and they actually could have added Meowth as one of their Pokemon where they used like the original Jesse James Arsenals, where they used Arbok, Weezing, and you can add Meowth as part of it, so that way they could all do like the triple attacks.
No, that'd be neat.
Team Rocket. I mean, you
Blasting
might be on to
Napkin,
something with that.
Blasting. Well, no, because we already had Team Rocket memes, but like if they would have gone and make them, excuse me, if they would have made them as a duel, I would have had that more than the Pyra and Mithra characters because people just see them as waifus, and I don't really care for them.
I do not like Pyramithra at all. I spent like a week playing against them online, like pretty much every match. I really haven't touched Smash since.
I try
I
the
don't.
characters too, but they're not my favorite. They're actually one of the worst, not even the best sword fighters. They're actually one of the weakest in my point of view.
No, I played it yesterday. It was fun.
You play like every day.
I do not.
That's bullshit.
I do not.
Mm,
Ever since the high blood pressure at the game, I don't touch as much. Actually,
That's on you.
I believe. Hey, you ain't wrong for that. You're not wrong for that at all. I'll definitely be feeling my. I'm like, man, I got to put it away.
I
Yeah, I
mean,
can do that.
before I wouldn't feel anything. Now, I mean, not like after an hour or so. Like, yeah, it's kind of like, oh, okay. I don't know. It's just fun. But anyway,
Yeah. So anyway, guys, I know we've been talking like almost a half hour of talking about Smash, but who hasn't? Who hasn't? If you guys haven't gotten the game yet, go ahead and check it and try to buy it out. If you do have the game but you have not yet to
Kazoon's
unlock,
broken, bro.
if you
If
haven't
you
got
want to, you go.
if you haven't bought the Kazuya character yet, it's only $5.99 single play. But if you haven't bought the DLC pack, it's only for like $24.99. But that way you can get all the not only just the costumes, you can all get all the characters, including the updated characters that haven't been released or revealed yet. And we will be reviewing a new character sometime later this year, as Sakurai mentioned. So go ahead and wait and catch on to go ahead and play your Smash Ultimate and enjoy everything you have. If you want
And
to
you too can win by just holding A and do 0 to 45 damage for $5.99.
exactly. All right, guys. Our next topic. There are going to be reprints in the Yu-Gi-Oh! And as well, Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournaments will officially be returned back on the 15th of July.
Yes.
I mean, them reprints look pretty good,
Lightning Storm looks very good.
man. Yeah, yeah. To be honest, like
I mean, Adolka as a reprint, you know,
yeah,
they,
Dalka,
they,
that's
they gave us Gravekeeper Spy, I believe. Like,
Needs
they,
more
they, they,
Gravekeeper Spy.
huh?
rivalry of the Warlords. Potential. What's the rarity on the new rivalry of the Warlords?
Ooh, I didn't see it. I was just watching Machado do an opening on his Facebook. I didn't see
Oh,
that
wait,
one.
he's got it. Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
can everyone explain the set that they're coming out for the reprints?
Huh? Say it again. Oh, it's called King's Court. It's a new set that just came out that has 10 collector's wares and some reprints and some new cards, I believe, in the set.
Yeah, they're retraining the old Yugi deck.
You know, yeah, the Queen, Jack, and King's Knights, I believe.
The face boss monsters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I got a good question for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So Go format is one of the funnest things that we have around.
No, it's
And
not.
it's really hard to find these old cards. Sometimes they're a little bit expensive because they are out of print, as these cards are never reprinted since they are
Uh,
stayed in the
Well,
ban list for too long.
Metamorphosis is probably like the most expensive Go card to my knowledge.
As you are correct. Some say second will be Delinquent Duel.
yeah, Delinquent Duo. Um,
Because like
yeah,
there are some decks that are penny. Yeah, there's some cards that are just obnoxious.
So here's a question for you guys. How fun if Konami did one thing they never thought they would do so that they actually have Go tournaments coming around by creating GOAT structure decks.
I think it'd be a terrible idea because I think the format is because I hate to throw this energy in right away, but I think the idea that Go is a good format is like it's a bit overblown. It's nostalgic, but like having links, having hand traps, all the interaction, all the things that modern Yu-Gi-Oh has, like compared to not having them in Go, like you just if you just get hit with a link duo and they have pot of greed, you know what I mean? Like they go +1, you go -2. Like you're just done. It's just a slow game, so it's gonna take you 7 turns to die, but you're dead right there. It's just gonna take forever. Like the blowout cards in the format are just ridiculous. Trap
Um,
just shoot, like all that when you get hit with all that stuff, you're done right there on the spot.
Snatch Deal, also in that
Yeah,
format.
snatch deal, yeah. You're just you know what I mean? Like all the stuff that's allowed in the format.
Sinister Serpent is always kind of broken.
Yeah, the
That
way it worked, especially when like the only good advantage cards that you have are like chaos monsters, so being able to just freely, you know, have resources for the chaos monsters that are like super stupid and like I mean, at least in that format, right? They're not super strong now. Some of them are still pretty good, pretty playable now, but
I mean, Kevin has a pretty good idea because like they just released these Egyptian god structure decks. Like you cut like instead of whatever's in them, they could have been like goat format structure decks. Like they could have just done that right now. But
kind of, but like I mean, to be honest, the Egyptian god structure decks are really just like, um, it's pretty much like, hey, Harpy's Feather Duster's $10. Pay us $10 for Harpy's Feather Duster and a pile of cards.
I mean that's fair. I mean, I liked when I saw it. I got hyped because I'm like, oh, reference to the anime. Something they need to do more. Reference to the OG anime and like produce cards from that, or have a
They do.
separate
I mean,
format.
this whole set they're coming out right now. It's like they've been retraining like every other set. They're retraining. They retrained Guy of the Fierce Knight. Thunder Dragon was a whole format. They retrained the Thunder Dragons. Like they, I mean, they're pretty well milking and putting meta relevance. They've turned Thousand Eyes Restrict into a whole archetype. Um,
I saw
like
that.
like they're pretty much a Harpies. Harpies is getting updated like all the time, just little things and Blue Eyes and Dark Magician. Like they like the old. It gets plenty of love for being like a 20-year-old like cards. They get plenty of love and they're plenty playable and like. But there's new stuff that they're doing. There's new animes, and those new animes, like the decks that they play in the animes, are decks that you can actually play, and they're pretty good / playable to even meta. Like I mean, but that's just my opinion on it. Like, nothing against the goat people, and I get it. There's like a skill level there and that, but
There's so many different formats because you also have like Teledad. You have the beginning format, which was just the Yugi
yeah,
Kaiba structure deck, which I played in that format. That's a lot of fun, actually. That one's actually not as bad as people think, unless the Blue Eyes player just sacks you with Lord of D and two flutes and like two blue eyes or whatever in his hand. But I don't know. Like Go is a fun format, but like I think I like the beginning format, the Yugi Kaiba structure deck format a little bit more.
I
I think the call for different formats in Yu-Gi-Oh is like symptomatic of like just the fact that it is an old game and it probably like it's past the point they shouldn't actually do rotation, but like that's part of why Magic, is so successful. Is that like you can play Popper, you can play Modern, you can play Standard, you can play Commander. Like there's, if you're a baller, you can play Legacy. Like there's a bunch of different like formats that the companies like naturally supported and put in the game, to where you're not stuck and just like play a top 1% strength level of cards, and if you don't, then good luck.
They are
That's
added
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Rush Rules as its own format. But as we've seen with speed duels, nobody cares about those side things, unfortunately.
No,
It's just
they'll
worse dual links.
no, yeah, they're like a worse Duel Links. They just like give you support with characters that has abilities like they do in the
I
game.
wanted to do the duel links, but like with the real decks and with real cards. Like I wanted that. Like I thought it would have been a
Yeah.
great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that
them separating, I think the other thing they shouldn't have done was put the watermark on the cards. And like, you can use speed duel cards in regular Yu-Gi-Oh, but not the other way around. Like, if you're just going to make it a pony format, like, just let people use the cards they already have instead of making us chase, like, forcing us to chase new sets. If you already have those cards, why not throw the people who have those cards and supported you a long time a bone? If the speed duel things is supposed to be for new players, like they can chase it and buy those products, and people who've already bought into the game and own those cards that are weaker cards usually anyway, like, but they've held on to it. They haven't put all their product into the secondary market. They're just collectors and enjoy your game. Let them play with those cards in this new format you came out with.
that's agreeable. I will also say like I agree your method with how yes, modern day Yu-Gi-Oh is more prime and people do want to go do fast-paced duels and everything. I can understand that. But I actually want to think of maybe an idea where like you can get like old school cards with original effects and they could like do their variety of using for gold formats for fun because sometimes people like to enjoy playing old school styles. And I agree with also Gio, like he likes to play old school Yu-Gi-Oh from like even from the beginning. Like for me, I love the chaos format because I love like the idea of how the game is really stupid and busted, where you have all these broken ass cards and you can use it against your opponent. And and they had like about instead of like one delinquent duel, you have about three different ones like forceful sentries and confiscations and everything. And you got your Potagrees, your Graceful Charities, your Snatch Steals, Raigekis, Dark Holes, Monster Reborns, and
Yeah.
any like all those stuff, And then Chaos Emperor and Yatagarasus, Witch of the Black Forest, whatever you name it. But like in styles of chaos, or in go formats where you have like different styles like the metamorphoses, the goats, the was it nine restrict, anything that you use.
Yeah.
But like it brings like the old. But the reason why it'd be great in for like in today's modern days because there are still modern players who started the game from back in the day who took a break or still continue playing Yu-Gi-Oh because they're diehard fans from the beginning and continues on no matter what. It'd be fine for them to have Go farmers, especially since most Go cards are very hard to get. Like we said, Metamorphosis is the most expensive and most difficult card to obtain because they don't really reprint this card. They've been out of print for years ever since being banned, and they have never intention of reprinting this card ever again. That's why you're never going to see cards like that to be reprinted until they officially are off the ban list, and for other reasons only because for two things: one, either to be errata, so they can be played legally but with like being limited standards, or they're allowed to be played but they just don't see as a conflict of issue in the game. Because there are cards that did come out during Yu-Gi-Oh! And Dragon Ball that didn't have, or other games that didn't have their effects changed, but they're just not as good as they are with current cards that can just counter against it. From hand traps, main counter traps, or anything, or monster effects that on the field that just says, yeah, you can't do that. That card, I'm just gonna negate and destroy. It's not my problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're kind of getting at, Kevin, is it's a good is or I guess the core of it is what Konami, a recommendation that I would kind of agree with is regardless of the format intention or some such thing, is that like the whole buying three structure decks, trying to figure out how to put them together yourself, this and that, and then like how does it work in the context of a metagame? Like more products that are just like, okay, two people, you want to play Yu-Gi-Oh? Here you go. Instead of a bunch of one-ofs, like that's not how people play Yu-Gi-Oh. That's not how, you know what I mean? Like just give us two deck. It's kind of like Magic's does with the Challenger decks. Dragon Ball's done in the past with the Mag Collection. Things like that are like, okay, just take this deck and play the game. Y'all, here's two decks. Y'all go at it. And this is more of an idea of how the game is actually played. And it doesn't have to be like in contextual to high level competitive. It could be more of a slower pace, like design of a game that they want those two people to have when they play those games. But like the structures, because I mean, you probably would honestly, it probably would be pretty fun. Like if me and you bought two of the Egyptian decks, and it'd be sacky and random, and a lot of the things that a TCG can be that are fun. But to be real, if me and you were to play any game that we both play, we're not going to play a deck with a bunch of one ups.
I agree. You know, I kind of also miss like they used to do the battle packs, and those were like pretty much fun. You just buy a box, and then you could just make one deck out of the entire box.
Yeah, yeah, something like that along those lines, where it's more because structure decks, it is what, like, you accept it when you buy a structure deck, you're gonna buy three of them.
Yeah, and it's like what's also like there's like their version of drafts, where Dragon Ball
Yeah,
had
yeah,
their
you saw the it's like a pre-release type of
yeah, so it's like, but
box.
yeah, so it's like their drafts. Like you find a card you're allowed to play, and then you can make a ruling where you're like, yeah, you're allowed to play this banned card, but you're only allowed to play like one copy in your deck, and you can only have like up like for me, if I were to make it, I would say like you can only have about up to three one copies of a banned card to be playing your deck. Like I can have one Grist for Charity, I can have one Pot of Greed, and I can have like one other random card that's banned that's like not legal at the moment. I can just use it, and then everything else can still follow up the normal limited and semi-limited and unlimited list. So there will be like no banned cards except you just only have a certain strict restriction to use it. Either way, and you could just like go ahead and play it along, however you want. If to me, if Goat ever did like a structure deck, if or if Konami did something where they can bring back the original old school vibes of the games, and players are allowed to go ahead and play them and to obtain these cards that never got to be reprinted, or they felt like the old school ways, or they can be used in today's formats, like as long as it's legal. I think that'd be a great way, because that way Konami can make a good profit. They get good sales. They get all the modern day and old school players to actually come and join the tournaments. All the store games can actually host Go format tournaments or Chaos format tournaments or anything that be nostalgic and well. Just so as long as the cards are like there's fair rulings that they do the old school. They have the original printing text of what those cards were during that format, so it's not like today's format cards with a stupid ruling, because that will take away the fight. And if you are gonna get one, let's say for Go format, of course you're gonna have one of the structure that's being Go control. But the second one, it depends. You got like a bunch. There's like for a bunch of decks, you got like about Chaos, you got Warriors, you got Zoo, you got Water, you got Gravekeepers, Monarchs, whatever you can come up with, and you can just go ahead and play during the formats of for fun. And if you approve it, maybe Konami can make more structured decks, and they say, yeah, this is our base deck of structured decks that you can play during this format only. You know?
Yeah, it's definitely like a like I see where you're coming at. Like, it's whatever the solution is. I mean, overall, I think Yu-Gi-Oh's struggle is also kind of, and I guess to segue a little bit to some thoughts I've had on Digimon too, is that like they really need to step it up when it comes to the cartoon. Like,
Anime.
yeah, the anime, just based on the fact that, like, it's not in, the new players like a new like, 10, 11, 12, 15-year old, all, young guys, young kids. They're not, they don't know what it is. They only know, if they're only being like kind of shown it and given it, but it's not something for them to like absorb and like really enjoy on any type of level, because they're not really putting the anime out there. They're not, putting new stuff. It's not really, they're just kind of putting it out because they know they can. I feel, I'm not gonna say like anything negative towards their you know direction on it, if it's predatory or if they're being late. I'm not gonna try and imply any of that, but it's definitely not like the energy isn't there, right? And Digimon does have a new anime. I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh does too, but they're promoting a whole new game which we don't even have yet, and um, which is a whole nother, I guess, thing to even speak on. But like the whole Digimon 2 is like they have a new anime that's, looks great, and they have a deal with Hulu. They should be putting those episodes up on Hulu, you know what I mean? So that way people can really enjoy this franchise, especially if you're investing money to print cards and like put merchandise out for these franchises. Why not, maximize on that, especially when you've already invested the money to make the anime. Get the anime over here for people to watch, so that way, these kids, it can be something for them to actually enjoy instead of just like, hey, let me tell you about this thing I liked back in the day. You know about these Digimans? Let me tell you about these Digimans. Let them discover it and enjoy it.
I got you. Would you think it'd be a good idea if Yu-Gi-Oh, if they bring back the story, they can they can actually like reboot it and then fix up the rulings and not make it complicated so that the game is more enjoyable to watch. Instead of like doing like,
The old anime, like for them to remaster the old anime, or to like do kind of like they're doing with Digimon now, where they're kind of revisiting the the old adventure story, but they're streamlining it and doing new animation and all that.
I mean, we could do
The
that. You could also add a little bit to some stuff from the original mangas that never got to be portrayed in the anime. Although
well,
some,
the original that would be more, but the thing is, I think if they did that, it would be more for us. I think Digimon is a good middle ground between the way they've done that, but I think on its face, like just the way Yu-Gi-Oh is, like it was such a dark and mature kind of story slash vibe. It's more of like a high school era, and like as goofy as the Four Kids American like context was of how they did it, it was something that 10 and 11-year-olds could really get behind. So for them to make it about like bullying and like punishing people's souls and all that other stuff, like and I think the era too, like that was also like late 90s, the 90s, from the mid 80s to that time frame, early 2000s. It was really like it was all about the edgelord vibe. You know what I mean? Like, that's when Batman got dark, and that's when X-Men was really adult, and that's just what kids were used to seeing. Whereas like now, it's we were playing Doom and Halo, and now the shooting game is Fortnite, where there's like 30 cartoons you could play as Chun-Li with a shotgun. You know what I'm saying? Everything is silly and goofy now. You kind of got to switch the vibe up a little bit. I think a whole new arc, which again is kind of looking like what they're doing with the what's that Geo, what's it called, Rush Duels?
Yes.
yeah.
I think that's what it is. Yeah, like it's more of a goofy, like even adults, people in their early 20s, they're more childishly oriented. Not to again put them down or say like they're childish, but like they're more of a softer, more upbeat type of culture compared to how we came up. So I don't know that rebooting Yu-Gi-Oh specifically in that same kind of way like they did with Digimon. Um, I'd have some questions about how they do it, but I'm not unsure that they could pull it off, because the iconography, the Blue Eyes White Dragon, the Dark Magician, like all that stuff is very classic. It's timeless. So
Yeah, that's true. Although
it's a thought.
what's funny is that the current Yu-Gi-Oh! Dueling one, what we have here, is technically the reboot of the original Dark version. But either way, I'm fine with both stories because they do have
I mean, I like the original. Like Yu-Gi-Oh Zero. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
season zero. That's like everyone. I like that one too.
yeah. But we're the last of a dying breed, man. You know what I mean? Like all that uh, thoughtful, philosophical, edgy, like type of cartoons, and
Although the
you know what I
manga,
mean?
yeah, and also though the original season zero manga was even more darker than the anime, but it depends on like certain
Yeah,
scenes that you felt that was more dark. Like in the original one where they had Ushio, which is funny how they added Ushio from season zero and season one as part of the story, and and here he is in season in the 5D saga, and he's like not like he aged a lot. He looks like he's 40 years old or something. And it's like what it took place 30 years later or something after he graduated, which is kind of weird because I'm like I never know we went to a dark tone after GX.
yeah, man. They definitely they tied things in an interesting way with that arc for sure.
Yeah. But like I was saying with the example in the manga where both of them are battling out with each other in the manga, Atem, I guess you want to use that, or Evil Yugi, because we don't really use them, Yami Yugi, or you still want to call him Yami Yugi. We just go with it because it does mean the Yami means darkness in Japan, so Yami no game means the game of darkness. So I guess yeah, let's just start with Yami Yugi. So Yami Yugi faces him in the original chapter, and they meet up in the late of the school. But instead of like in the anime where they're just trying to like pick up a card and they're trying to like, oh, we'll pick it up on the side, and if like whoever got like a better card, they do like a scale totem pole, and like whoever like loses has to fall from their death into like the little shallow water. But there's a darkness game that you don't know in the end. In the manga, they instead do the same card thing, but instead of like climbing on a wall or being on a scale, they use a knife to pick up a certain cards. And whoever gets like a certain high amount of cards, like I guess 21 or something, if you play blackjack, they win the game, and the loser takes on darkness. And if you're cheating, the darkness will then uh, take effect on you. So in the manga, Ushio decides like, oh, I got the knife, I'm gonna stab Yuki and take the money away, because it was all about the money. So instead, he goes ahead and tries to stab, but then he gets conflict saying, oh, bring money, but then he's in delusional, which I didn't really feel darkness there. In the anime, he failed to win, and then he falls to his doom. He's headed straight down to the canal, like a sewer pipeline, and then instead comes out a certain worm creature that will devour him, and his mind has already been destroyed, and he's like shivering and scared like a scoured puppy, and he's like forever. I forgot that word. The what's that word that when you freaked out, it takes effect on you forever?
You're scarred.
Um,
No, not
yeah,
this. Traumatized. Sorry, he gets traumatized and he's like forever scarred for. Oh yeah, scarred but traumatized is the same thing. But yeah, you see like different points in stories and the mangas and the animes and the styles of how it portrays to the fan bases everywhere, including depending on they have like high and the whole board games, card game stores that they use that sells products for all over in both Japan and America. So
yeah, and that's the thing too. It's a different kind of culture, you know. But yeah, I mean, it like if they, you know, yeah, but I think that's where it really has to start for really, most of these franchises, like Dragon Ball, for example, is something that, as much as slip ups and ups and downs as Bandai's had with the card game, they've had a lot of leeway based on the fact that like the anime is one of those. It's just one of those types of franchises where it can go on hiatus. We haven't had a new. When was it? Been 2 years since the Broly movie came out,
it's
and then
been
Broly movie came out
three
like a year
years.
after.
Oh no, yeah, it's been 2 years. Sorry. Well, 2 years in Japan, 3 years in America.
Yeah, something like that. You know what I mean? And that was a year after the Super concluded. So, we haven't had, an actual anime for Dragon Ball and going on like 4 years, something like that. So, um, but I mean, there's Heroes, which is, we ain't got to really get too deep into opinions on Heroes, but, all the different, the ways that the anime touch people, like they got a lot of leeway with what they can do with the card game because it just comes from that type of franchise slash anime, and it happens to be that Dragon Ball still catches the attention of young teenage guys and girls, and they gravitate towards it, and it's something that's has very big pop culture relevance. Not to say that Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't have that, but it's a different way about it. Like it's international, you know what I mean? It's a Marvel level type of franchise. So that's just what I think they could do whatever with Yu-Gi-Oh. But if you're talking about like making it a different player base and um, casual this and that, like that's where I think it all boils down to is how they make it because they have the nostalgia button always. Like it touched us. It was a whole movement. It was a whole wave for us. But to have it transcend time a little bit more, I don't know what alteration they can make to have it, just something to help it grab, make it flashy, maybe um, come out with an actual new video game, right? That's another thing too. That Link Evolution, that it was an update to whatever the last Legacy of the Duelist or whatever I think it was called on 360, but it was a 360 game. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
we're talking about like a 10-year-old engine at this point. Like put something actually like flashy. Yeah, it could use a rules overhaul or something, or maybe just make a different kind of power creep. I think they kind of were on that with Lynx a little bit, to where like things did a lot, but they're actually really simple to play, right? Like Thunder Dragons, Sky Strikers. They did a lot of things that were really powerful, but the steps really weren't super complicated. Even Salads is, kind of bored. A lot of the stuff it's that's been coming out recently, it kind of builds itself. It's easier to play. They have a lot of effects. There's a lot of text there, but they, could find a way to even consolidate the text and have, stronger effects. I mean, just make it, flashy, easy, simple. That's just what people like these days.
there you go. All right. Anything else to say about this, Geo? Before we move on to the next topic?
No, I'm good. Let's move on.
Okay. So now, it's been official. Walmart is going to be selling Digimon cards. Not only that about that, guys, we also got here that does Bandai need online?
Well, I want to take that'll be next week. I want to take like 30, 40 minutes on that.
Yeah, that's true. That's right. We do take a lot of time on that.
Yeah, yeah. It says does Bandai need an on like client for Dragon Ball Super and Digimon, but that'll be a great conversation for next week.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. We took a lot with Smash and Yu-Gi-Oh, but then again, that's what you get when we have one guy talk about the entire one card game series, and then we have this one guy talk about one card game series, and then another, and then another, and then all of a sudden it ends in 10 hours of a podcast.
hey, man, it could happen. But what we are going to talk about now, though, since that was going to take a long time next week, they announced they reprinted Violet Rays as an alternate art tournament promo in the new TPs for Dragon Ball Super. And I wanted to touch on, and I think we'll end it with this. I wanted to touch on that's a great reprint. Now we've got Dormant Potential reprinted. We got Violent Rays reprinted, and they're both reprinted again when they reprint set 10 and 11, which will be out soon. But for Dragon Ball Super, for their sake, I think that they need to do what they do with the Digimon TCG. That the Digimon TCG barely has any exclusive promos outside of Pulsemon and the Power Up packs. They need their promos to be alternate art, like they do for their other game. So that way we avoid decks being locked behind promo walls. We avoid people not being able to get the promos. Yeah, people will pay more money for alternate arts than the real card, just like they do the winner cards. But it doesn't affect anybody. You could play the decks from the sets when they launch. You could play them. You don't have to go killing your wallet just to play a specific deck. And it just helps the games out with newer players as well. Because if everybody sees something, ooh, this looks really cool, I want to play. Oh, that's a lot of promos. That's a lot of money. No, I guess not. I think maybe they're starting to learn, but we'll see. It'd be great if they reprint more alternate art promos. What do you guys think?
I think the Rays reprint looks beautiful. To be honest, I like the art on it. And yeah, I think I'm with you 100%. They need to be, just doing reprints and TPs. instead of like archetypes and that. Although, I mean, it's a step in the right direction. I'll say that. Like this most recent rollout looks a little like there's definitely some things in there, a little support, a lot of support actually. I mean, Violent Race is the one, so hopefully next time they roll around with a TP, it'll be almost all reprints. But I
I
definitely
mean,
feel like for this pack, what was you saying, man?
I think tomorrow they're showing another reprint in the
Oh
TCG.
yeah, there's supposed to be two SR reprints.
Yeah.
But like, cause the Prince Vegeta, like, you want that. Um, the blue one, I mean, a lot of blue decks could use that. Um, this right here, I mean, depending on what exactly. I mean, you'd have to do some testing, but I mean, if Broly Chain and King Cold is the way to play the deck, because it's kind of a thought I had before with the way some of the other cards work in the archetype. This field card might end up being, either way, it's a King Cold card, right? Like they printed it, it's locked to Frieza clan leaders. It's a 2-drop field spell. Like they're
Other
definitely thinking about
people
King
have had,
Cold.
some other people have had similar thoughts on that, doing the trends, not the same thing. So maybe.
Uh, and this other one is definitely like you might max out on this Mass King negate for the new Mass Sand. So the Rays, I think, as long as hopefully it morphs more and more, because if they're doing 1 and 1, that's 2 out of this pack. Um, because it's two issues, right? Is that there's a lot of cards that do need to get reprinted, and then the TP program needs to roll over to alt art. So it is kind of killing two birds with one stone. But I'm with you. I mean, I think they need to go all in with it. I'm always keeping my eyes on Bandai, and because I love the games. So I'm gonna stay critical when I can, but it's not putting nothing down or this and that. Hopefully they can find more space in the sets, because maybe it's a space thing. I don't know. Maybe it's a math or RNG thing as to why they put cards in TPs. They just don't have space in the set. But
I mean, it doesn't
I,
help that King Vegeta and Vegeta Zeno right now are like the two decks that are so expensive due to how many promos you need in the deck. I mean, Vegeta Zeno has I think that has like 3 or 4 promos.
Gotta thank the
That one.
Vegeta Saiyan army for the buyouts, including our boy Frank Castle. Shout out to him.
Oh yeah. You know, it's we need less decks to have promos like that anymore. Like the Red Brawly deck just needed 1 promo. You need 4 of them, but they were super expensive at the time. But like if we just need 1 promo and you need a playset of it, it'd be great if it wasn't like gonna kill your wallet type of thing. But it needs to be closer to that than have like 20 promos. You need so many different promos for your deck. Um, it's cool that they give us new cards. I love it. Don't get me wrong, but not in that way.
and you're right, an option. Which I mean, this whole like we were just talking about with King Cole. This might just be an option. This might just be a different way to play the deck. I don't know that it'll necessarily be like, oh, it's the only, because I don't really see that. It's a thought that I've had and played around with, and this kind of would help play the deck in that way. But I don't know that playing the deck in that way is more optimal than just playing, some couple of good green cards and the bulky package that is King Cold, because it is basically and I love that. I love that the deck is basically a super functional bulk pile. You don't really need to chase too much out of the set, and hopefully as the sets come out, we get more decks that are just less SR dependent and more just like if you buy a
Yeah,
couple boxes, you'll have something playable.
I concur. Like Reboot Gohan is the leader in a pile of 50 cards, and it works. So like they need more, King Cold. So like that was my biggest gripe because me and my buddy we were playing and I had so much set 9 book. I'm like, hey, you want to just play like a popper format or like common uncommon rares, whatever? where we have like a certain amount of rares. Remember, right? We were making all the decks, but so many of the decks they were barely functional because there was so many SRs for these decks.
Yeah,
But then they made Shenron, which didn't. It had rares, and then the next set it brought SRs and stuff like that. But like they need to keep making decks like that. Since Shenron can hold. Um, I don't think there's another one. Um,
um, yeah. I mean, maybe Pilaf.
Pilaf, yeah, Pilaf is a pile. They need more decks like this, even if people don't like them as much, because like you can, they bring new players to the game, or they bring people that just want to play the game. It just gives another avenue for people versus and I've seen the
Well,
secondary market, like these reprint, like I saw Dormant, the original copy was like $28, 27. So like the reprints are affecting them. So
yeah. Well, that and the best green deck right now doesn't play Dormant.
yeah, it
You know,
doesn't.
and I think part of the thought process too is that it actually helps the value of the set, right? When you put these bulk pile decks in there and make them really functional and work really well, because then what happens is that the foils turn around and turn into good. They're healthy in the secondary market, because before long, I mean, it's already starting to rise a little bit, but before long I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these commons for like King Cole, for example. I mean, you've already seen it with Sin Shenron. If you these foils are, you're looking at $3 to $5 per foil, so you're almost making your money back on a pack if you pull any of these foils for the deck. So it helps the high end people get to be like, I'm blinging out my deck. The low end people get to be like, I just get to play the deck. And the financial people is like, okay, I get to not net, because then when you make bad bulk,
It just
well,
stays
when
there.
you open a box, you're just throwing away money.
And I'm somebody that before COVID I was the bulk king. Like, give me your bulk. You don't throw it away. I will take it. I will take it. I have I have almost like I have almost a case of bulk for set 9. And some of the other
Okay.
newer sets. I have some bulk. I don't know how much of it, but set 9 playing. I played the Bibbidi leader without the SRs. That was fun, but Android 17 versus instead of the Invoker leader,
Yeah, and
Goku.
you also helped me make that Jiren deck without the cards, and I had to order that myself. So in the meantime, I actually played the deck without the supers and like maybe a little bit of the rares. And that was also fun too, against your Invoker Goku deck.
Yeah, that was fun, right? Like those type of formats. Like and Digimon is the same way. You can make common uncommons and allow the 4 tamer rares, and it's a lot of fun. It's these formats. You start thinking and get your mind going. You're just having fun and playing the game, and that's like, I think that's like the best kind of casual format you can do for Dragon Ball. Since it's I feel like that's like you just get the set, you just playing, you're just brewing. It's kind of like the sealed for pre-released or the store championship format. Like those formats are really fun.
Yeah, and it's hard at that, and it's kind of getting easier with the way, because I mean, KP. If you cut all the SRs out for every deck, right? You can still play KP. You can still play Turles. You could. I don't know. Is PyCon, is the Gogeta a rare? I think the Gogetas a rare. There's decks like Trunks and a lot of these newer decks from Unison Block, which
Ginyu.
like, yeah, Ginyu. There's a lot of decks that they're playable without SRs. So if you're to be like, hey, we're gonna do a format we don't play any SRs, then yeah, like the newer stuff does work pretty good like that. But there's definitely levels to it. So we'll I guess the bring it full circle is what they've done with it, at least in Sen Shenron's case, right? Because it's been supported throughout this whole block, is that,
Him and
well,
Veg, him and Vegix have been feasting.
Vegex, Dark Broly too. 30K.
Yeah.
Anytime they print a 30K, it helps Dark Broly. Um, but it's one of those things where there's different ways to play these decks that get these ongoing supports, but there's no necessarily best way to play. So if this tournament, if this TP, for example, right, is say an avenue to play King Cold in a different way, but it's not necessarily the optimal way to play King Cold, right? If that's the case, then I'm fine with this TP being, what it is. Because honestly, if we're keeping it a buck, you kind of, now that the anger and the FOMO and all that subsided, you really don't need promo Palmon. A lot of those promos from Digimon that are functionally unique, you don't. If there's a certain deck you want to play, yeah, but the game works differently, right?
The
It's
the
designed.
only one that I feel that is mandatory for competitive play is Pulsemon. That's about it.
Yeah, if you're playing yellow, like Pulsemon's probably just the best rookie. And Pulsemon's it's already been scheduled for a reprint. There's another print of it
No,
coming. So
yeah, no, third and BT6, I believe.
yeah, so there'll be more copies out there, and and by then, I mean BT6. I think there's another Pulsemon coming out with an inheritable on it. So you might be able to get away with, if you're playing like a Lord Nightmon or something like that, get away with playing that Pulsemon instead. So there's that. The way they creep the game in kind of a healthy way, to where like it's not like the new card is necessarily just outright better, but it does give you a viable enough alternative option to where like, okay, I missed out on that. It's fine. You have a reason, instead of chasing old promos, to keep buying into the set. To keep, when the new set comes out, all right, well, it's fine. I'll just get into whatever's coming out next.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of how I feel like they approach Dragon Ball. Except they haven't been really killing these decks per se. We've had new decks added onto the meta since set 11, and
Yeah,
it just
I do see
I
more points of view about that, Geo. I do see more that set 11 stuff has got more push in the meta than you see when set 10 came. Like, even when Vegix still was like the best deck to play, and it came set 11, they were getting a little bit of stuff. You don't really see much Vegix stuff like it is now. Like, even being the best, structured deck
well,
leader in the history of the DBS card game.
so like
part of the
here's the
reason.
other thing I'll say about DBS though. Well, actually, you know what? You kind of asked Gio a question, didn't you?
Yeah, you did. I'll make it real quick. Part of the reason you don't see
Okay.
Vegix is you need Gogeta promos that are $108 and you need 4. So like, if you have them, you'll see that deck. But if you don't, most likely not seeing Vegix. So I'll let you go, Cam.
Oh, okay. So what I wanted to throw out there though, as far as Dragon Ball, the format, the community, a lot of the way people are acting about it, is that like I think the balance in the game, because like the game is so dynamic and it seems like things are so unbalanced when they happen, but I actually think the game is like super balanced on a level like this, where a lot of people are like, oh, this is just the best. I'm just gonna play this, and then that's what shows up. But when you see other things show up, other things top. If you see a lot, you know what I mean? Like all these black players, all these dark Broly players, they're worried about baby. You know what I mean? But a lot of babies don't show up in certain metas. But when you see baby show up, baby's topping. When you see when you see King Cold show up at tops. When you see, I just saw like a week or two ago, Whis showed up. Guy showed up with Whis top. I still think that the whole, like, yeah, people are on the skillless Gohan and this Bojack and that stuff for blue. But I've never really seen people even go for and play the Janemba deck, right? Which they use a lot of the pieces for in their skillless engine. But no one ever just plays Janemba. You know what I mean? So like, but
Yeah,
I would have no doubt in my mind.
they went to Soul Striker Janemba. Yeah.
Yeah, that which it's fine, it's understandable. I have my own like feelings on why I actually think I would just prefer to just play um, Janemba over Soul Striker. But that's my own opinion. But I have no doubt in my mind that people show up with Janemba tops, or people show up with KP tops. But the red deck, if King Vegeta shows up, which a lot of people are still comfortable with KP, so KP's what's showing up, and then there's also a price bearer with King Vegeta. But when I see King Vegeta show up, it tops. So if everything that shows up has that chance to top, is it really an unbalanced game, or is it just that there's an unbalanced opinion on the game?
Unbalanced opinion for 1,000.
Like, it's not really that out of hand. I think like if we're because here's the thing. I mean, Mecha I think is a little bit borderline, but if we're talking about like the floodgates and the hate cards for decks like Debro, for decks like Vegex, you know what I mean? Like you have your Dark Power Blast Message, your Violent Rays. You're talking about 1 mana answer cards. You have the whole cycle of Blue Baby hate
Oh,
that
you
they got.
brought up a good point. What if, not to disrupt what you were saying, but what if they banned Dark Power Black Messiah?
I thought about that a lot. I thought because here's my I thought that like Dark Power, like this card is like whoa, but at the other hand it's like it's kind of a necessary evil, and really the format is healthier for it because like it's the same thing with Bean, right? Like you can argue like okay, Bean's a little out of hand when they get to use it offensively, but like not many other colors, because of the difference in disparity in card draw, not many other colors have to leave mana up to use something like Bean defensively. So the way the colors designed, in Dark Power, like those decks that don't have ways to clear your board, they have to, put a tax on you and make you think about it a little bit. They need Dark Power, especially if you don't have removal or things of that nature. Like it's it's balanced in the fact that like okay, it's an answer card. We're a game with a sideboard. We have strong sideboard cards.
I find it great that Vegex got 2 Goku and a Vegeta 1-drop skillless cards that can play with the Gogeta TP, fusion for that. You could play a skillless package now in the deck, play Dimensions of
Yeah,
Fortune.
and I've seen that. I've seen Saiyan Skyon lately, um, with the Vegix.
Yeah, and so that's a lot of swings. So
And,
like
and that's
that's
fine.
like it's a very it's a very unique thing. But as much as people want to ban that leader or get rid of it, it's actually one of the more unique leaders that we've ever gotten.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely. I mean it's definitely something that you kind of put up there with the category of reboot Gohan, right? And that the leader, when you can say a leader card itself, because without, if we just call every card a card, right?
Mm-hmm.
Reboot Gohan is probably still to this day the best card in the game.
It's very, very good. Although people think that the battle negates from Battle Evolution stop that deck, and I don't think you still need more than just one negate to get that deck.
Yes, I mean it definitely it helps, but how many negates are you gonna run, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
and
even blockers, like I've killed people through 2 blockers and a negate, so I mean, like that's
and the
even,
game's all about sequencing, right? Like I've killed people through not with Gohan, but with Janemba, right? Just aggro decks. I've killed people when they've double protected of the people from and taken them like through their whole life total.
hey Cam, it's that's a great one. I love when you're put in that situation and you just do it to them anyway. I killed somebody through an after image actually. Uh,
It's about sequencing, like calling their bluff. What do you have in your hand? It's playing the game.
so
Like
what did they go? They told me to combo over 75 or 85, and I comboed to 125 and killed them.
it, like and people they get on tilt when there's times when it's like, hey, you know what? This isn't the kill turn, but I'm gonna combo my whole hand off now, and I'm gonna hold on to 2 negates. and you're going to sit there with no hand, and we'll see what you do because I'm got enough of a life lead on you. It's just creating situations, sequencing. There's a lot more than just like text on the cards. I think a lot, to go back to what we talked about last week, is a lot of people just don't test. They spend a lot of time theory crafting, and a lot of it is like just reading text on the card versus another text on the card and like staying stuck in that headspace instead of like play the game. If you just play, there's a reason why skillless strategies are strong. These cards don't have any text on them.
It is interesting because if they were to ban Vedrex with skillless Kid Goku from Set Six come back, that'd be a deck that's easy, and especially if like Dark Brawler got hit. If those two decks got hit and then Kid Goku can make a comeback as that deck is a very good, let's draw a ton of cards and, play with our skillless cards, play aggro or mid range, depending on how you build it. It's very interesting because, the ban list will determine a lot of things and we have like 2 weeks away from that, you know. But, Bandai leaked out, the Zeno Shadow Dragon deck, which is a mill deck, so. And they also leaked out. Well, I don't know. I think this was a Photoshop where they said that Vegix was banned and Sensu Bean was, eroded and limited to like one, and the errata was on their turn with the limit one. Which I think that'd be overkill on Bean. But
I just don't think Bean. I don't even think Bean is like problematic at all. But like
it's one of the greatest. It's like Blue's tool to combat aggro. So like if I think you could put Blue at a disadvantage with that. Why you just load your deck with more negates? I don't think so many decks want to run like what is it like 10 negates at that point.
I mean, Bean takes up space. It doesn't replace itself. There's having a Bean in your hand. There's a lot of different factors to it. But all that aside, it's I don't know. But we'll see what Bandai does. Because at the end of the day, if they're reprinting, say Rays for example, we're looking at the new set. They're printing more 30Ks. There's no way that, and I think this whole like language of widespread bans or shaking up the format, I really don't think that it's quite going to be as drastic as people might think. I mean, we're looking at maybe 5 cards. I don't think we get. I don't. I mean, do we get in the double digits?
I think so. I
Like,
think I think we'll approach 10 if they're really saying that they're going to change. And it'd be interesting to keep it on to the conversation we're having. If you're trying to promote decks with promos, right? Why wouldn't you kill the ones that don't have promos, right? So so if they hit Mecha, Dark Broly, and Vegex, then King Vegeta is king, and then a lot of people would want those TPs. Then you should start seeing people play King Piccolo still, which that TP's calmed down, but you know it.
I mean, red definitely as a whole gets out of hand. Um, with those changes, like
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to see if they hit, Drum from King Piccolo's deck, like I suggested. If they hit Launch, that hasn't really done much, but, people think it's an oppressive deck. Um, what changes need to be made? And if their changes, well, we did this for the good of the game, but then your changes make that the best deck has promos. So this is where we're having this conversation where,
yeah,
if the promos are alt arts and everything comes in sets, or like a dash pack, like they used to do, what they do with Digimon now, where you get it when you buy a box. Okay, cool, I can understand that. But you'd still have access to the cards, and it's not a pain in the butt to go get them. So it's just going to be interesting, and I think that the more that the player base, I think they're craving another format, and it'd be great to I think we'll revisit this next week as well, Kevin. Remember when I was I think it's one of the episodes like what kind of additional format would we want in Dragon Ball Super, Kevin? I think you might remember this episode. Um, I think that's a great talking point to revisit next week because there are people that make their own formats and stuff like that that aren't a part of Dragon Ball Super. And I think Bandai. I mean, I'm not talking about like best of one, best of three. I'm talking about like legitimate, like different formats away from those two in the store championship. And that'd be kind of a great piece next week to see what kind of formats people actually want. What kind of casual formats that casuals or people that are just like not as competitive as what they want in the game, and what kind of decks they would build given if they didn't need promos.
All right.
Yeah, I mean that comes down to game design. I think that it's a tough balance. We have archetypes right now, so like archetypes are really strong, and like generic cards because like everything that I would propose on a ban list would be most of the generic cards, super push draft box cards, right? Even from draft box 6, I think everybody slept on power level draft box 6, but like that's the thing is that you want generically strong color cards so that way people can play. Because really, format or no, people just want to play with their favorite leader with their favorite art.
Reboot Gohan is like Teen Gohan's my favorite character. That was like him, Kaba, and Vegix are like those are like my favorites. Kid Goku as well, another favorite of mine. Um,
Okay, so you going in on this new Red Vegeta starter?
I'm not sure.
I mean, there's a lot of hype more to the Vegeta starter than there is with the Mass Saiyan reprint.
I mean, I'm
That
excited for
Vegeta
the
is
Matt Saiyan reboot leader. I'll tell you that, Cam. I'm very excited that that happened. But
that'll be interesting for sure. I personally think you probably just do like you throw whatever good Mass Saiyan cards there are. I don't think you go full rainbow though, and you probably just do like green, like or something. You know what I mean? Like Demigra with the charismatic package, and like keep it as consistent as you can. But going full rainbow and like that, the only deck I found charging rainbow to be like kind of fluid in was AOD.
that's probably like the old. Oh, that and like U7 Gohan and U7 Frieza from way back, like the old
Oh
deck.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I think back then charging rainbow wasn't bad, but I think now you'd probably just run like you would definitely want to run like a unison package, right? Like you'd want to run a 4 and 4 of whatever unison goes good with the strategy, whatever counter goes good with
Oh,
unison.
another great talking piece for next week, which I'm writing these down. Are people tired of Unison?
That's a good one. Added also to the topic for next week. How bad would it be if Universe 7 Tournament of Power booster box set got Unisons themselves? Can they make a comeback? Can they be busted? Or will this just be another frivolous idea that Bandai is just adding to the table?
I think if they make another because set 9 was technically turn into power set, so was draft box 5, even though they don't have TP turn into power in their names. If they made a TOP2, it would sell like hotcakes because we've seen with those two sets that those have done very well. After their run, the set 9 meta was fantastic. Draft box 5 meta, Sandy and us, we made you know, the Boo Universe 3 deck that took that meta by storm, but like wasn't bad.
No.
Yeah, draft boxes are they're a gift and a curse. I kind of wish every set was designed like them. If you're gonna go with that like direction of the game, I think that that's the thing, right? Is that when they do draft boxes, it's a different game than what Dragon Ball Super is, and I think that's where a lot of conflict comes in with
Well,
allowing those cards
I
to start
think with
performing.
they said with the Battle Evolution boosters that they weren't going to make draft boxes anymore. Could be wrong, but
I mean,
I heard that, and I kind of like what Battle Evolution did. It was a good balance between what a draft box is, and like good generic colored cards that aren't too pushed, and good archetype support.
it did a lot of things right. It did a
Yeah.
lot of things right, like maybe include a little bit more cards, but it did a lot of things right.
yeah, because I just think that draft boxes are not even treated as draft boxes after like the third one came. Even by the third one, it just wasn't as creative as it was for like the
Well, you're
first
talking
two.
about when they put the Wilmat and the Colossal cards in the draft box, or you talk about like
I'm talking about like,
draft box
well, sort of like with
Giant Force?
yeah, sort of like with the original draft boxes.
Dragon Brawl.
The first three did. You know, you just
Okay.
create a deck and you just play it for fun. You try it out with the leaders, even though people later on just like, oh look, free packs, free cards, and just make a deck out, which is fine. You know, but like the idea with these draft boxes where they were more creative based, kind of like I said with the battle packs, like they were fun. You just make a deck out of all the cards that you were given and see how it resolves. Yeah, but the third one it was just kind of like whatever. You just hardly can make anything that's like Dropbox material, even though Wamat was like a fun set, I just think it wasn't as popular until like, and then when they finally made the 4 to 5 draft boxes, they were not even based like drafting. There was just decks that people were making and cards that people were trying to use for their main decks that pretty much
See,
rise
I
the
kind of think the
prices of them.
opposite. I think that draft box 4, 5, and 6, like the Dragon Brawl, the Universal or the Multiverse, and the Giant Force, I think they were like draft sets in that like it was generic, cards. If you pull them, like you could play with them, and like you could, build a. It could be kind of an archetype. It could be, and I'm coming from a mentality of like Magic, right? So like they were designed like a Magic set's design. Every card in the draft box stands on its own. Whereas like Womat, just kind of as a whole in the game, it was an interesting turning point in that like it started the archetype dependence. You need to see one card for another card to be any good. And that's kind of where we started to go with the game, is that you need to there's a lot, the way these archetypes and the archetypes are designed in Dragon Ball is like, if you don't see this, then don't even look at that. Like Gio was talking about with Boo, like he played Black Boo. Like if you don't have the SR, then all the other card, what are you doing?
You're
You
wasting
got
time.
yeah, it's a waste of time if you don't have the other cards. So, but like if you just pull like say, just like a Zamasu out of draft box, right? Do you have 5 energy worth of cards on the field? Okay, blow them up. Here's a Zamasu, right? That's just a good card by itself. The either one of the apes, right? It's just like pay 2. Here, you got a big guy on the board. You don't need anything other than what it asks for, and it's strong by itself.
All right. Okay, guys, so we're gonna go ahead and call it a night. This was a good, decent podcast. I'm really glad that we got to talk about it. So I want to thank Cameron G for joining us in today's episode. Thank you so much for showing up and giving up your best discussion here so far.
Absolutely, I'm glad to contribute to the talk.
All right, and of course, Giovanni, thank you so much for all the topics and everything.
Of course, Kevin. And for Noel, Sora, Sora, Sora.
Yeah, let's say it. Let's hope Crash make it. Noel, if we do it, that's fine with me. Team Crash all the way. Are you Team Crash or Team Spyro? The world may never know.
Spyro for sure.
Spyro,
I'll tell you.
Spyro. Yeah.
And one final update, guys. Next week, AEW. Since we have Cameron here, he's a wrestling fan along with us. We will have AEW officially returning to the tour as the pandemic season is now officially over. If you watched this week's recent episode of the AEW Dynamite that took place at the daily place at Jacksonville, Florida, their next first trip to the World Tour will be down here in Miami, Florida on the day of my birthday, which I will be attending at the St. James L Center, downtown Miami, with my buddy Moses.
Ooh, baby. Getting that A dub.
Gonna
Go on, get it, man.
buy a couple of merches, and I have a couple of signs. I'll post those pictures of the signs before I head to the event on the Facebook page, and I'll send it to you guys in messengers and everything. If you guys are attending here in Miami, the AEW Miami event, let me know, and I'll be glad to go ahead and meet fellow wrestling fans because it'd be great to talk to wrestlers. It'd be great to talk about wrestlings from the past, wrestlings of today, and just have a good time. That's all we're here. Just have a good time and watch a good show. There's a lot of things happening, so go ahead and check it out. Again, it's going to be at AEW Miami, James L. Center. Sorry, James Knight L. Center. Don't want to mess up that name. And with that, guys, I would now, as Mr. World Champion once says, I bid you adieu. So for all
Shut
of
it
us
down.
here and the TCG Party Podcast, goodbye, mwah, and good night, bang. This is Fortress Striker, signing off.